Hello, TandLers, and welcome back to TandL Talks, the podcast for, about, and featuring fabulous educators. I'm your host, Nancy. Today's episode focuses on Puyallup Digital Learning, PDL, a program many of you may know through Puyallup Parent Partnership, or P4, and Puyallup Online Academy, or POA. These programs provide meaningful learning opportunities for students and families who need something different from the traditional brick-and-mortar classroom. As many of you may have heard, beginning next school year, PDL will be part of a broader shift in how we name and organize these pathways, moving toward what we're calling flexible learning options. This reflects what has always been true. These programs are grounded in choice, personalization, strong family partnerships, and intentional teacher-student connection, not just delivery through a screen. To bring this vision to life, I'm joined today by Christine and Keanu, two incredible PDL educators who work directly with students and families every day, one from the P4 program and one from POA. Through their voices, you'll hear what flexible learning actually looks like in practice, how instruction is designed, how relationships are built, and why these programs matter for so many learners. Let's get started. Hello, TandLers. Today we are talking to two teachers who work in our PDL program, Puyallup Digital Learning. Could you please introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Keanu Penorio. I teach middle school math and science, as well as I have some ninth grade students for my advisory. And I've been teaching, this is my first year teaching, but I actually worked in the past as a paraeducator in the White River School District as well.
Great. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Christine Keith, and I teach in the P4 program, Puyallup Parent Partnership Program, and I teach 3rd through 5th grade.
Great. Well, thank you both for being here in the TandL Clubhouse to tell us a little bit about your programs. I always like to start my podcast by asking people to tell me a story about a teacher who had an impact on you.
Well, I think for me, I can think back to, it's not that long ago, because it was when I was doing my student teaching. A couple of different teachers there had a pretty good impact, but especially my mentor teacher, she kind of just really supported me and even had an idea of what I needed when I was actually starting to take over the class, and she kind of just knew I needed that push to get out there, and then had that right amount of how much support do I need, and I didn't really have to ask most of the time. She kind of just had a feeling for it and just gave me a good, strong foundation for where I am now, teaching on my own and just being able to process and do what's best for my students.
Love it. Thank you.
I definitely have had a few I can think of, but I think probably the biggest impact on me as a person have been my colleagues and just learning from them and how they might do something differently, and they have just brilliant ideas. And especially in our program, we really rely on each other a lot, and we're doing new things all the time. So being able to check in with others and sort of think about what this is going to look like down the line has been really impactful.
Great. Thank you both for sharing. The impact that we have on each other is great, and it's forever and ever, right? There's nothing better than when you work with the right teacher team.
Yeah, magic.
I love that. So how do you usually explain PDL to someone who's never heard of it before?
For elementary, I tend to explain it as a hybrid program. It's mostly digital, online, or home-based curriculum. So students are doing most of their academic work at home, and then they have opportunities to come in person with their classmates twice a month. We have an in-person regular school day where we work on we focus on social emotional learning, since they're doing all their hard academic work at home. or in small groups with us. It's a hybrid program, and the kids will come in a couple times a month. So we have the once a month in person, and then we also have community outings. So for example, this month we're going to the Washington State University's Master Gardening program there in Puyallup, and next month we'll be going to the salmon hatchery, and in June we'll have a picnic. And on those activities, parents come too. So it is a way for students to get to know their classmates, but it's also a way for parents who are doing this very unique program to connect with each other and share ideas and maybe different lessons they've tried or how they're tackling this or that. We try to have both because that in-person opportunities really help with engagement and then feeling connected and getting to know each other.
I love that.
Yeah, on the secondary side of it, we give students a little more of the opportunity to have like a little more of an individualized or independent approach to their learning. It's still structured and everything, but it gives them the opportunity to focus on their own, but also get help, one-on-one support from a teacher, more individualized support. Since us as teachers, we're not really focusing on a whole class of students at one time. We have the opportunity to focus in on what each individual student needs. And so that kind of independence and the individualization, and even give students a little bit of differentiation in their learning within our online platforms. And also we give students, we have where we weekly meet with our student, each teacher has a group of students that they meet with, so that they also still get that connection to teachers, even if they don't necessarily need the help on their actual academic coursework. They get that still like personal and one-on-one connection. Mm-hmm. And some teachers do it in groups as well. It kind of just depends on who it is and what they prefer.
And as you are both talking, it makes me think it's different than standard school in that you don't have kids all day, every day, right? But I bet you get to know them in really unique and different ways by working in small groups, by collaborating with families.
Yes, that's one of the things I love so much about our program. It is a choice program, right? So parents and families have chosen to be in our program. And so it has all this flexibility that can work for different families in different ways. But that is one of my favorite things, is this partnership that we develop with the parents. So if their student is struggling with anything, they come see us, sometimes small groups, sometimes one-on-one. They can get one-on-one tutoring. But it is a team effort with the parents, and that those results make a big difference when you're working together with the parent.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what drew you to online teaching?
Well, for me, it was part of it was first teaching job, trying to get experience somewhere. But then also now it's just that like I get a lot of different opportunities than I would in the classroom. I feel like I've gotten know a lot of my students a lot better, especially when I meet with the ones that I meet with one-on-one weekly. You see students in a different way than they would where they're in a group of maybe 30 or 20 students. And also I've gained some skills that I never thought I would need to use, or even that I use on a daily basis, that have helped me teach better through not necessarily meeting with a student in person, but virtually as well.
Right.
So for me, I was a non-traditional student. I actually went to Walker. It was called Puyallup Alternative then. But I lived on my own. I was parenting. I was working. I was going to college. I didn't get my degree till over about 30. And so that's really where my heart is. I know how important it is to have different options for families. The traditional classroom doesn't work for everyone. And so the more possibilities and options we can provide to families, the more opportunities students have for success. And I love being a part of that.
And we were talking earlier, Christine and I have known each other for a long time. We worked together when I was a principal at Verlet. But when I found out that you were working at PDL, I just went, oh my gosh, that's the perfect fit for Christine. And really, you started during COVID, and then when we went back, when most people went back to regular classrooms, you really had found your niche, right?
Yes. Everyone else was kind of going back, and they needed people, and I had the opportunity to make it my home, and I don't want to go anywhere else ever. I love it.
I love that for you, and I love that for our students. So what does a typical instructional day look like for you at PDL?
So they're kind of different depending on grade levels and things. For example, I have 49 students right now, but I don't have them all at one time. So we have morning meetings on Teams, we have small groups on Teams, we have lunch bunch on Teams, and then in the afternoons is when parents can so we do a lot of that in the morning. We have drop-in time, so students never feel stuck. They can come and get help almost every day. And then in the afternoons, parents can book one-on-one times for their students. So I have some students that I see regularly, some students, they just happen to be struggling with this concept. And so we can work more directly with students on specifically what they need help with.
Great.
Yeah, on the secondary side, our kind of typical day is usually most of our morning is we have about hour and a half plus of time where we have availability for students to set appointments with us where they can, if they don't want to have a small group or they don't want to necessarily have other students working at the same time, they can one-on-one set appointments with us. And we allow them to come in person to work with us or virtually. It depends on the students' options, giving them that ability to choose. And then after that, we have our what we call our open drop-ins, where we just let students pop in as they want. If they want to just have somebody they just want to sit in the meeting and work, or they want to have quick questions or longer help, just give students the opportunity to, as they have a question, come in, ask it, stay as long as they need to. And then our afternoons are changed a lot depending on what either students need or teachers have going. But a lot of time it's, for me specifically, I have some students where mornings don't work great for them. Either they get up late, they can't meet schedule wise, so I tend to have a lot of students who like to come in the afternoon and get help, and usually have more time to kind of sit down with each individual student week to week. But some teachers have extra classes that they kind of work with during those times as well.
And this is your first year, so you won't know the answer to this yet, but a year from now you totally will. But Christine, then do you have the same kids for multiple years sometimes, right?
I do. I have quite a few families that have been at PDL from the beginning.
Right.
They're a big part of the heart of our program.
Yes.
We do have a lot of flexibility in that too, because a lot of times students are coming to us because they're struggling for many different reasons,
Right.
one reason or another. And so I've had a lot of new students. I get a lot of new students. It can change a lot. So you have some that they're there and that's where they want to be for long term. That's what their family feels is best for their student. And then you have some students who maybe just need it for a little while. They might have a health issue or something going on in their family where they need to do school at home for the rest of that year or just a couple years.
Nice.
Yeah, and I've even seen, like, I haven't had much experience of it, but the other teachers that I work with on the secondary side, they have a lot of students that have continued year through year, and they actually get to know them really well, even some all the way up through senior year and graduating. But we do also get a lot of new students in, and students that might only stay for that short time, and it's just that's what they need for that short time, or students are transferring in because they want that different experience or hear good things that they want to come and try it out for a little bit, even if they don't necessarily stay long term. But it does kind of give that extra option for their education.
So what instructional strategies do you think are most effective for engaging kids online?
I like to give them a lot of opportunities to talk with each other, because then they build the relationships and they build those connections. As far as the academic instruction, in our program, a lot of that is coming from the parent or it's coming from the online curriculum. But I like to give them as many opportunities to come and build connections with their classmates and with me that we can. And they get to talk with each other. That's a great connection. It reminds me, like, if you think about in the traditional classroom, how many kids would like to come and have lunch with their teacher?
Yeah.
That's kind of like what our small groups are like. They're very small, and they're getting that one-on-one attention or small group where they can really talk to their classmates. They might be too shy to talk in front of an entire class. So I find that really increases engagement too.
Yeah.
And our in-person, they really enjoy it. They don't get to see each other every day. So when they are there and we are doing social emotional learning, they really, really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the big thing is we have our online curriculum that does give multiple different instructional strategies. So you got like a lot of visual things, some reading, videos, a lot of different things to keep students engaged. But then also on my end, where it gives students the opportunity where like they might not be understanding something one way, especially for math and science tends to be a thing where something's really confusing one way, where they can come and meet with me and I can adapt to how they need to learn something, and they get that like specific targeted instruction rather than just a whole general. They might not learn something best one way, and then but working with them I get to learn, okay, student learns best this way, so I'm going to approach it this way. I even had a student today that I was working with where I was explaining something one way, and he's I learned this completely different. Okay, well, how did you learn it? And then I get a C, and kind of, okay, well, then I'm going to approach it this way in the future. It's a lot of those like kind of multiple ways of teaching, multiple methods of instruction, but also like different learning that students, how they learn and how they learn best.
Yeah, and that causes me too to think about in a typical classroom, especially if you've got a kid who's quiet and well behaved, they can maybe become a little more invisible, where you really have that opportunity to find out exactly how does this kid learn. You have that connection and that ability to dig in a different way than you would in a standard classroom.
Yeah, definitely. Because we get to know our students and their families so well, and they're really coming to us for the things that they need help with, we can differentiate it a lot for each student.
Right.
And you said those quiet students tend to get missed sometimes, and I have seen like a lot of those quieter students, when I'm able to meet with them, give them those opportunities where they're not in that large group setting, they do start to open up a little more, and you do get to see their personality come through a little bit more than you might in a large group setting or even sometimes a small group setting.
So you've started talking about this, but differentiation, support for diverse learners. I'm thinking about kids who have disabilities or ML kids. How does that look in your programs?
I feel like we have a lot of students with disabilities that, the general classroom maybe it's just not the best environment. There's a lot of sensory overwhelm, the schedule, you have to go whether they're ready or not. And they are able to work at their own pace. They're able to choose which subject they want to work on right now. And so when they come to see us, they can say, oh, I need help with this quiz or with this. Or sometimes their parents are trying to teach them something and they're like, I've been trying to teach them division and it just isn't making sense, which kind of goes back to what Kiana was saying about being able to try different strategies. And because we're working with them with small group or even one-on-one, we can keep trying things until we get it. We don't have to leave for lunch. Right. We can keep doing it.
Yeah, and I think also we do get that opportunity to partner with parents a lot too, where we can kind of look at how Christine said, students can choose what they want to work on, when they want to work on, or things like that. We can really work with the parents on what's going on at home or what's going on where the student's working, and then we kind of look at that and like, okay, well, here's the things we can do, or here's what we can try. And even the online, our curriculum and everything gives a lot of that opportunity to, if it's something's going on, a student needs extra time, we can easily give that, where they're not going to fall behind in the classes like they might in a classroom where you got to keep moving forward. It gives them that opportunity to be a lot more flexible, and we get to focus on what does that student need more than trying to focus on what a lot of students need at one time.
Yeah, which is something I really like about the program as well. I'm not teaching the whole class at one time. I'm teaching each student what they specifically need help with.
Right. And my background was as a special ed teacher, and so I worked with individuals in small groups a lot. But there is so much that you can get done when you're working individually or small groups. You can get a lot of content in a much shorter time than in the whole classroom.
Absolutely. That's one of the things I love too. When we're working with those students, we really get to keep working on it until we see that light bulb.
Yes.
And they feel good about it. It feels very impactful.
Right. Yeah. How do you monitor student progress and understanding?
So in elementary, it depends on which track. So if they've
Okay.
chosen the online curriculum, I can see every assignment, I can see the pacing, I can see which concepts, it'll even sort like which standards they struggled on. And so I can see everything. I can see how many lessons they did that day or send them back for a retake. And then for the home-based track, the parents really decide the pacing, what they need to slow down on, what they can go faster on. So they report to us how their student is doing. We have monthly progress reports, so we check in whichever program track they've chosen. Are they meeting the program expectations and requirements? Which is a big part of also what we do, checking on all of the data.
Right. Case management, really.
Yes, it's a lot.
Yeah, there is a lot of case management. And for the secondary side, it's pretty similar to what Christine said with the online for the elementary. Is it's a lot of, we can kind of see all the data on what the students, how fast they're going, how many lessons they're working on, where their pacing's at, are they really far ahead, really far behind, and we can now even see, did they do really well on certain topics? Do they need a little more support on something? So it gives a lot of that, our online curriculum gives a lot of that. We can go in and look at specific things or see a zoomed out picture as well of where each student's at.
And do our PDL kids, how do they interact with like state and district assessments? They do the SBA like every other kid.
So they are expected to come in person and do that. So there's some kids we see at every in-person day, every community outing, and there's some kids that we really only see for the testing. They have to come in person for the STAR test 3 times a year, and then the SBA as well. So that is something that some kids are used to coming in, and some of the home-based families, they've chosen home-based for a reason, and so their student is at home most of the time. So they do have to come in and do that, but it's interesting considering just everyone's experience and the level of they know each other.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you help your students build independence and self-management and ownership of their learning?
I think for our program, that is a really important skill. And of course, I have elementary, so they do need a lot of guidance from their parent. If they've chosen the online curriculum, though, by nature, it's going to require them to be able to work independently and check they know their test scores and see how far they need to get.
I think it's a really big part of our program is that they kind of, not all students come in with those kind of individual, those skills, but it's something that we can help them build. And a lot of it's like sometimes they need helping them build those skills to advocate for themselves a little bit.
Yes.
Because sometimes they need stuff where, as a teacher, we got a lot of students that we're managing at one time where I'm not always kind of looking at what they need at that moment. And so sometimes having them advocate for, hey, I need this thing done, or I need help with this. And also building those individual skills of building a schedule, working on stuff on their own, because not all of it's with a teacher all the time.
Right.
So they have to really work on those skills and get those down to be able to be successful in our program.
Which are also really great life skills. All of those things.
Yeah.
The self-management, building a schedule, all those things you just talked about. So you have both talked a lot about your relationship with families. What have you learned about working with families that might benefit teachers in any setting?
I think, especially for our program, working with parents is really important and almost crucial. And a lot of times just sometimes making a connection with no matter how good or bad a student's doing, just making that connection of, hey, checking in, how's the student doing, or giving an update on where they're at sometimes just makes a big difference. Sometimes parents aren't aware of what's going on with their students' grades or classes. I think just, even if it's just a short, maybe email, phone call, making that connection really helps parents see and be involved in what's going on with their classes, and helps even parents make that connection. I have parents they'll reach out to me all the time because they got questions or something's going on with their student and they just need me to know so that I can know how to support the student. So, yeah.
Great.
I think it is hard to compare because our program is a choice program and it's called parent partnership. So it really is a team effort, but also we have the opportunity in our schedule to work with parents. Those same times where we might be meeting with a student one-on-one, we can meet with a parent and help the parent help their student. But just that idea of being a team, we can just make so much happen. And in our program, I feel that there's the opportunity for that to be there more. They expect us to be a team. And so when we call them or we say, hey, your student is getting behind on pacing, they know that because we're a team, they have to check in with their student and get their student to start logging in the way they should.
Are there any new skills or mindsets that you've developed through doing this work?
Just the thinking outside the box, which is really hard. Schooling has been about the same for 100
Right.
years, right? So you have the past to look at as a map of what you can do, whereas we are sort of creating it in as we're doing it. So you have to think of really different solutions then, and you have to, that's why I go back to like our colleagues, because they help us think of these different ways that, and we're doing things that it's never been done this way before. So I like to say that we're leading the way in modern education.
Yes.
Because we know that parents want choice. That's more and more something that parents are looking for. And we know that students are all different. They're very different. So I love having this option for them when, especially when the traditional classroom isn't working for them. And it's just so different. But you have to be ready to roll with things because it's kind of a moving target sometimes.
Right.
It's changing all the time.
I think for me, a big one has been a lot of like flexibility and adaptability, because I got times where since I teach math and science and it's 3 different grade levels, sometimes I got to bounce between one science of 6th grade all the way to math of 8th grade, and I'm bouncing back and forth a lot. And so it's just that like taking it as I'm going and working with students. Sometimes I got to tell us, I learned to be okay with telling a student, like, hey, give me a second. I got to just figure out where I'm at for a second here before I start telling you the wrong things and leading you the wrong direction. But that's just giving me the skills to, okay, here's what we're going to do. Okay, we're going with this. And I think it's just giving me that mindset of I can help students have that skills and mindsets as well of, especially with our program, sometimes you need to be a little flexible with how things work. And it's really an important life skill as well. So.
Yes. And creativity,
Yes.
right? Flexibility and creativity. What's a common misconception about digital learning that you would love to clear up?
I think the biggest one is that it takes no effort, or it's really easy. We found a lot of students kind of are surprised that it does take a lot of time and effort and like a lot of focus, because you can't just do it a couple minutes every day and be okay. It takes as much time as you would spend in class every day, if not sometimes more, because you're not necessarily working with someone all the time. That can be an option, but a lot of it's more independent. So sometimes you got to just work a little harder and actually focus and put in time, because what I've seen a lot of time is students who don't put in enough time aren't very successful as the ones who put in a lot of time.
Yeah, it does take a lot of effort. I completely agree with that. I think sometimes our students may have even longer amount of time. They're doing it on their own, but they have to keep up with this pacing, and they have to do it, right? In the traditional classroom, you have some kids who are able to do it, some kids who choose not to. In our program, they have to be doing certain things in order to stay, because it's a choice program. So I think the biggest misconception is that it's like COVID, like CL 2.0.
Right.
It is not like that. The parents, the families are choosing to be there because this is where they want to be. So they're much more with that teammate mindset. Students have to have their camera on. They have to be doing the assignments. We have to have weekly contacts. We have to do monthly progress reports. So it is not that. I would say that's probably the biggest misconception. It's completely different. They're there by choice. They want to be there. The kids are kids, right? But the parents have chosen this program, and so we work together as a team, which is very different than COVID, when everyone was just sort of thrown on there.
If a family's considering PDL for their student, what would you want them to know?
We're here to help you. We can differentiate for your student. There's so much flexibility. If they're trying the online track and it doesn't working, we can switch them to the home-based. If they don't like speaking in front of other kids, they don't like being on camera, we can work with them one-on-one.
We're willing and able to work with kind of whatever situation's going on, and it, like a lot of times students isn't comfortable with something. Okay, well, let's do something else instead. Or they don't want to necessarily they can't meet a certain day for when we have our meetings with our students. Okay, let's change that. Let's do it a different way. Let's do it a different time. So we have a lot of ability to kind of change things or adapt to what student needs are. And a lot of the other things we've said is just, it's that adaptability. It's the new thing of online learning's kind of coming up and being a bigger thing. And so it just goes give students a lot of new opportunities that they didn't necessarily have before.
Yeah, and one of the things I love about it is there's probably a lot of parents who are interested in homeschooling, but they don't feel that they are able to. Maybe they don't
Right.
have the skills or teaching degree.
Or even relationships with their kids. I hear from parents all the time, they're like, oh, I could totally teach my oldest child, but my younger child, I could never teach them. That would not be a good mix.
Yeah, and we have some where we have the sibling is here and the other sibling is there. But I would say if they want to give it a try, like we're here to help. They're not doing it alone. And you're still part of the Puyallup School District. Students can even go to music class at their homeschool. So if they want to give it a try, they can do it because we're here to help them.
Thank you both for being here today, and thank you so much for sharing your experience. This has been great learning for me, and I know for our listeners out there too. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us and giving us the chance to share about our program that we're so proud of, and I love being a part of it, and I hope to see and help it continue to grow.
Yeah.
As we wrap up today's conversation, I am struck by how clearly our guests described the heart of this work: flexibility with purpose, high expectations paired with deep support, and true partnership with families. As Puyallup transitions our programs into the broader umbrella of flexible learning options next year, today's conversation is an important reminder. While names and structures may evolve, the core commitments do not. These programs remain rooted in student agency, personalization, access, and connection, and in teachers who know their learners deeply. Whether a student needs online learning long-term, short-term flexibility during a life transition, or a learning environment that better aligns with their needs, flexible learning options exist to expand opportunity, not limit it. A huge thanks to Christine and Keanu for sharing their experiences and for the important work that they do every day on behalf of students and families. And to our TandLers out there, thank you for listening, for learning alongside us, and for continuing to ask how we can design systems that work for all of our learners. See you next week on TandL Talks.